Hey guys, welcome back to another episode from UDCYD. In this episode, I will be covering yet another Incoterm, CFR. If I'm speaking gibberish right now and you don't understand what Incoterms are, do go back to the first video and catch up. Once the series is done, I will let you know more about the pros and cons of each and direct you into choosing the best Incoterm as an importer. On another note, Alibaba has updated their platform, so I'll make another series dedicated in explaining some of their key features. With that said, what is CFR? CFR basically stands for cost and freight. So under this Incoterm, the name place is the port of destination. It applies to sea and inland waterway transport. So where would the port be? Obviously, it will be near the water, right? Near the seaport. So it cannot be used for air freight or rail, for example. So under this Incoterm, you can only use it for sea and inland waterway transport. Now, let's look at the buyers and sellers' obligations. We'll start with the sellers. The seller is required to clear the goods for export, deliver them on board the ship, and pay for transport of the goods to the named port of destination. So what does this mean? I'll explain it real quick. So the seller is obviously in charge of producing the goods, packaging the goods, labeling the goods, and transporting them via inland right until the named port. And the named port, as I said, is the seaport, because you cannot use rail or air freight under this Incoterm. So we're looking to take the goods from the warehouse all the way to the seaport, right? Next one, the buyer is responsible for paying all additional costs from the port of destination, including import clearance and duties. So the buyer is responsible of paying that whole process that I just mentioned that the seller had to do right until the goods arrive at the final destination. Let's say the final destination is in the USA. Right until the USA, and they have to clear their import clearance, duties, taxes, and so forth. But it doesn't end there. They have to take the goods from that port right until their warehouse, and that's when the contract is concluded. Got it? Good job. Now, where does the risk transfer? So the risk passes from the seller to buyer when the seller delivers the goods on board the ship. So once the seller delivers the goods on board the ship at the named port of destination, let's say at the seaport in China, this is when the risk now passes on to the buyer. So before that happens, while you're still in the middle of concluding your contract, you have to make sure that your seller will assist you with insurance, because they are in charge of the whole shipment from their port of origin up to your port of destination. So definitely you have to speak with your seller and make sure you are covered. This is a good image I saw online that shows the seller's risk, the buyer's risk, the seller's cost, and the buyer's cost. So as I've just explained, this is the movement of goods and the different risks, and where the cost falls onto the buyer and where the cost falls onto the seller. What are the buyer's obligations? You can go through this in your own time. I've just mentioned all of that. And the seller's obligations, again, you can go through that in your own time. And the best thing is, you can't just believe everything I say. Do your research so you can understand it more. I'm just giving you a basic understanding of these terms. So what are the experts saying about CFR? So they advise that if the freight is containerized and to be delivered to a terminal only, meaning they don't have to transport the goods from the port right until the warehouse, you can use the CPT Incoterm instead. What is CPT? Carriage paid to. I'll explain that in the next video. And the buyer has to make sure his shipment leaves on time and that there are no delays from the seller side to avoid unforeseen taxes, shipping demurrage charges, and make sure that his goods are covered from the minute they leave the seller's warehouse, as I mentioned before. Okay, that's all for today, guys. See you in the next video where we'll be focusing on CPT, and goodbye for now.